Hello and welcome to the Alamo Dome. I am Matt Smith for 5280 Sports Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, a disappointing end to the 2016 Colorado football season as the Buffaloes fall tonight in the Valero Alamo Bowl 38-8. They are defeated by the Oklahoma State Cowboys in the first matchup against a Big 12 opponent since leaving the conference in 2010. It was another tough game to deal with tonight for Colorado. They didn't have it, and that was the consensus afterwards from both players and coaches. And I think this team was banged up a little bit more than this coaching staff had led on in the weeks leading up to it. In fact, after the game, head coach Mike McIntyre saying that both of their starting corners in Chidobe Awuzie and in Ahkello Witherspoon were injured in this game, but toughed it out, gritted it out, and played anyway. In fact, McIntyre said that Ahkello hadn't even practiced in a week and a half and was only finally able to raise his shoulder, even just above his arm above his head rather, for the first time just yesterday. So some injuries Colorado was dealing with, and then again Sefo Liufau banged up in this one, the high ankle sprain. He said it was the same injury that that he suffered at Michigan and then later would suffer against Washington. Just a nagging injury. Those high ankle sprains are tough, and each one is unique. You never know how long it's going to take you, but a disappointing performance tonight, and this game really didn't have much to do with the fact that Jim Leavitt, former defensive coordinator of this team, left and didn't coach this game. Joe Tumpkin did a fine job calling the plays on the backside for Colorado, but they were overmatched. And that was something we talked about in the podcast on No Bull Just Buffs this week, is that this is a Colorado team that was going to struggle heading into this game because Oklahoma State plays very aggressive, not only on offense, but on defense as well. In fact, in the postgame press conference, head coach Mike Gundy said that he challenged their defense to be the most physical and aggressive team on the field about a month ago when they found out they'd be playing in this game. And in fact, that's what they did. They came out and did exactly that. They played very, very fast, and they made things very difficult on this Colorado offense. Now, for the Buffaloes defense, we talked about those injuries, but Mike Gundy brought up something in the postgame press conference that I thought was very interesting. And I think from a coaching perspective, just a reason why this Oklahoma State team won. Mike Gundy noticed on film that he said for 12 straight games the Buffaloes played single coverage, tight man press. Well, he knew that's exactly what they were going to do tonight, and it was a one-on-one go win your battle, and that's exactly what happened, especially in that first half. James Washington, star receiver, all Big 12 first team, was a star in that first half of play. He would finish the game, I believe, 9 catches for 171 yards and a touchdown. He was brilliant tonight, but he was going up against a banged-up Chidobe Awuzie, who had a turf toe injury that McIntyre, after the game, said he injured in high school, actually, and it was just kind of a freak thing that happened. But a lot of NFL scouts here on hand tonight, and certainly a lot of eyes on this game, as it was the main football game in primetime tonight on ESPN. Certainly not the lasting taste that the Buffaloes wanted to leave in their fans' mouths, and just the lasting impression that I think this senior class, who has overcome so much and done so much for this university, wanted to leave behind. But they're outscored 79-18 in their final 2 games of the season, being the Pac-12 championship game and of course the Alamo Bowl. A tough way to wrap up this season, but this was a season of firsts for Colorado. We've got a lot to get into as we break down what the Buffaloes actually accomplished this year. But from a broad perspective and an instant react, there's zero to be ashamed of for this Colorado football team. They brought CU back to relevance. The depths with which this program was laying in before, they're gone now. That is now in the past, and Colorado can begin to move forward, and that starts with a very bright future next season with a ton of offensive players returning. For the most part, they lose Sefo, of course, Alex Kelly, Jared Coe, but the entire wide receiving core is coming back. Phil Lindsay will return. So offensively, I don't expect a huge drop-off for the Buffaloes. In fact, if anything, they might even get a little bit better next year. Tim Lynott, Coach McIntyre alluded to in the post-game press conference, he was very excited to see what Tim does in the offseason. And then I think the Buffs have a few guys that McIntyre briefly kind of brought up and skirted around that they're excited to see next season. Juwan Winfrey is one of those guys in training camp. There was a lot of hype around him. Some people even thought that he might be CU's best receiver. He will be eligible. He'll be back next year from that injury. There's a few other guys that this team has redshirting that I think they're very excited to get to take a look at next season. And of course, the Steven Montez era will begin in spring ball officially. He came into this game to replace Sefo Liufau, but McIntyre said he wasn't thrilled with the accuracy that he brought to the table, so they went back with Liufau in a last-ditch effort to win the game. Colorado did some things well tonight, but not many, and certainly not to the extent that they needed to. It's a disappointing performance for a program that hasn't been to a bowl game in the last 10 years. But what Colorado did, turning around 10 straight losing seasons with a 10-win campaign, was enormous and a lot to be proud of. And for Coach McIntyre after the game, just saying how blessed he felt to be able to coach this group of guys that he came in with. Every senior in this class put their heart and soul into the program. It's going to sound cliche, but it's true, and none more than Sefo Liufau, and a little bit more composed than I expected after the game from Sefo. He carried himself very well, which I don't really know why I was that surprised. I thought emotion may have been a bit of a bigger factor for him afterwards, but almost a sign of relief on his face. He's been carrying the load and the pressure for 4 straight years, and this year the cooker turned up to 10. So it was definitely a good learning experience for him. And a lot of these guys have aspirations at the next level, and they will certainly spend the next few months trying to stay somewhat in football shape, but really getting in track shape for pro days. CU Pro Day coming up, the NFL Combine. This is actually a CU senior class that's going to have some NFL players in it. Chidobe Awuzie, Tedrick Thompson, Josh Tupou, possibly Jimmy Gilbert and Nikello Witherspoon, Sefo Liufau, of course. The list goes on because there's a lot of guys that'll make a camp, but definitely some interesting things to keep your eye out for heading into the off season. Well, it was a very good year for Colorado. They surpassed pretty much everyone's expectations other than their own, and I still think they surpassed their own just a little bit more than maybe McIntyre would like to lead on. But a very good statement to make, and for the team and the group of guys that came in with him as he set out to shift the culture of this Colorado football program when he arrived on campus in that first year. It's pretty impressive to see what he's done over the next consecutive years with the same group of guys that got their teeth kicked in and game out for the better part of the last 3 seasons. Really turned it around this year. A lot to get into, like I said, as we move forward into the offseason. We're going to have a huge football season wrap up in the new year. I am Matt Smith for 5280 Sports Network from the Alamo Dome. It's been a pleasure covering 2016 CU football, as they are now back. The rise is now real, and if the rise is going to continue, then it starts with what they do in spring ball and how hard they work. And this is a group of guys that may not get to 10 wins next year, but is certainly going to be a very formidable team and has a chance to be pretty special moving forward. Thank you for tuning in. Go online to 5280sportsnetwork.com and check out our family of podcasts on there. Also, go follow along on Twitter at @RealMattSmith. That's Matt with 1 T. At 5280 Sportsnet, or you can find all of our exclusive content online at 5280sportsnetwork.com.